A very warm welcome to everybody. Financial Fitness Fridays. Warm being the operative word. It is absolutely baking out there. So hopefully we'll get this out of the way today and you can get on with your sunbathing if that's what you're going to be doing. So my name's Darren Laverty. For those of you that don't know me and haven't been on any of these sessions before, I work for Second Sight. We're an employee benefits consultancy inside the Foster De Novo group. And Financial Fitness Fridays is the main focus on Financial Fitness Friday is about financial well-being. So we're going to talk about that a lot today. You're in for a real treat. We've got some fantastic guests, the lovely Gaynor and Michelle from the Happy Days for Everyone Foundation. Can't wait to tell you all about them and also introduce them. I've got some great questions for them. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions for them as well. And you know, for those of you that haven't been on this session before, Financial Fitness Fridays are here to provide really great financial content to people. And it's done in a way where there's no pitch and no selling, there's no proposition, and there's no product at the end of it. It's just pure information delivered, what we think, in a engaging and fun style, which is much easier to learn about things in that way. So, but Happy Days for Everyone Foundation is just registering itself as a charity. So I'm going to make an exception today, and I am going to tell you a bit about them and promote them a little bit. And for the just also point out to everybody that I have just been invited to be a trustee on their board. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, the invitation to do that. I can't wait to see what I can learn. Happy Days Foundation, everyone's all about being happy. It's focusing on helping people with their mental health. And financial well-being and mental health, these two things are inextricably linked. There's no question on that. And I'm going to just share some thoughts with you about that, but just a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to finish today exactly on the half-hour mark. Okay, I've got my stopwatch here. So we finish at 11:30. Because we know some of you have blocked out the half an hour and you might have other meetings to go to. But we will stay on for 15 minutes afterwards because there's always a lot of other questions that come through. So I'll be going through the questions. I'll be getting Gaynor and Michelle to answer those questions for you. So for those of you that can stick around for an extra 15 minutes, we will be there for Q&A at the end. So, so I just want to set this one up really well. I mean, what is financial well-being? Financial well-being is a feeling. It's like a feeling of feeling in control. It's a feeling that everything's going to be all right. It's a feeling that you feel good in the morning. You don't wake up worrying about money, you know, but it's just something we've got to work on all the time. And I've said many times that, you know, financial well-being is 80% of it. Like anything that we succeed at in life is psychology, and 20% is the mechanics. But from a mental health perspective, you know, studies have shown that over half of all mental health problems are triggered by financial worry. So if we can get in control of the finances, it's really going to be good for our well-being generally. And about 90% of people who are suffering from mental health issues, now they state that the financial worry just exacerbates their problems. Now, we have to learn all about finance. We have to learn all about money. And I learned about it at school. I actually studied economics for my O-level. But one thing I remember coming out the end of that, I learned a lot about banking, clearing checks, stock market, currencies. But I never remember coming out of that feeling motivated to take control of my finances. So there's two elements to this. There is the motivation and the desire and the want to get in control and have a good financial life. And then there's the strategy and the mechanics. We need to have a good balance of both. And a good way of explaining that is like, if you imagine a fly, you see dead flies on your window pane. And that fly, originally when he was alive, you know, he had goals in life. He wanted to get out the window. He wanted to get through that and outside. That was his objective. So that was his goal. Number two was, did he believe he could do it? Yes. You know, he saw through the window, didn't know the glass was there. So he gets banging his head against it, but eventually he died. The reason he died, because he had the wrong strategy. So we need all of those things. We need to make sure that we have goals and we've got objectives, we've got a big enough why, but also then we need to believe we can do it, but then we need the right strategy. So it's a good combination of all of those things. And, you know, and good financial well-being is about making good decisions and getting to good habits. And in order to make those decisions and start those habits, we need to be in a good state from an emotional perspective, because all decisions are emotional. Every decision we make is emotional. What we do after we've made the decision, we look around for the logic to support it. You know, like I should join a pension scheme. We join a pension scheme at work because we want to make sure we avoid being poor when we're older. That's an emotional decision. But we justify it with our company match, the contribution. We get tax relief. The sooner you do it, to spread the cost, the cheaper it is. There's the logic. And my industry spends too much time trying to prove people with the logic. So we have to be in a good place. And some people, you know, it's very difficult for them. Some people are not in a necessarily bad place, but they're confused, don't know where to start. Some people are a bit anxious and a bit worried. And these are very poor states of mind to be in. And when you're feeling like stressed like that, or you're feeling confused, you can't think, you can't make decisions. Sometimes we procrastinate. So today is about getting some momentum, getting some forward progress. So without further ado, what I'd really like to do now is to introduce you to our special first guest from the Happy Days for Everyone Foundation is Gaynor. Are you there, Gaynor?
I'm here. Hello.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me?
Very welcome along. I'm just going to stop sharing. Oh, right, stop staring at the screen. That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much for joining us today, Gaynor. Really appreciate your time and effort. Lovely day for it as well. So, have you got anything planned this afternoon?
Paddling pool in the river with my kids. That's as far as I'm getting.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, look, I'm going to crack on because we do have, you know, limited time. We've got a lot to cover, and I'm really looking forward to today's session. So, you know, you've looked from what you do at the Happy Days for Everyone Foundation. You know, you're looking at all of the aspects of well-being and especially the mental health and the things that impact mental health. Yeah. So, from that perspective, what are the things that cause the most stress for people?
Well, actually, often when we look at stress, the thing that you think is causing the stress is most likely not the thing at all. It's not the most obvious thing. So to understand what's causing the stress, what we advocate is that you really need to look at the thinking and the behavior that's driving you to make the financial choices that you're making. So basically, we're all about understanding what we do and why we do it. And that's about looking at the emotional triggers, like you mentioned earlier, because there is a motivation and a belief behind everything that we do. So when we're born, okay, we're all born with a blank mind map, and it's our experiences that create our thoughts, and we attach an emotion to that experience. And over time, these become our beliefs or our core beliefs. And these core beliefs become our internal driver, our reason why we do the things that we do. So there's a lot at play here, both consciously and subconsciously, that really needs some time to unpick. If I was to give you an answer on the main reason that I think, you know, there's a cause of financial stress, well, we've all heard of the phrase keeping up with the Joneses, yeah? And particularly now, we live in a world with social media, everything. We are bombarded daily with comparisons and conditioning. And we are taught, because of advertising, to place value on material things. And so we begin to believe that if we have these material things, we're somehow going to be happier, right? So it could be the top of the range car or the bigger house, but the pressure and the stress that we put ourselves under to live this life of success and happiness that we're being conditioned to believe actually leaves a lot of us feeling lost and empty, because really what we're doing is we're feeding our emotional trigger with things that are materialistic, and they're not really helping. Now, at Happy Days, we've been going for a few years now, and what we know is that happiness comes from balance. And by that, what I mean is, yes, it's important to look at your finances, but you also need to have a balanced approach to your issues in life. So we advocate looking at social, emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. So basically what I'm saying is that you need to make sure that you're considering all these areas so you can get more balance, because that's really ultimately what makes you feel less stressed. So
you mentioned the material thing. I think there's something quite interesting. I was running a young person's financial forum at a large company a few months ago, and half the people in the room were young graduates from Europe.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There was a lot of pressure on the young people to get on the property ladder, but it was only coming from the Brits. The Europeans were turning around and they were saying, "Why is that such a big deal?"
Yeah. Again, that is an example of a core belief. I mean, I think when I was younger, and I'm not going to admit how old I am, but it was a while ago, you know, we were taught, you know, you go to school, get a job, buy a house, have children, leave the house to your children. It's like a cycle, it's set up for you. But the belief that is set in me is, I'm not successful unless I buy a house. But actually in Europe, They don't, they rent, they accept that. And so they don't have any stress or any pressure around them because that's not what they've been taught. That's not their belief. No, it is really interesting. And I think actually things need to change in the UK because it's money-wise, we can't live the life that we are being sold we need to live anymore. We, you know,
Nice. Quite a refreshing view of way of looking at things. And I have to say, I was quite fascinated with the attitude of the Europeans. They weren't worried about it at all, and they even said their parents and grandparents rented. It's quite shocking.
Yeah, and that the attitude comes from what you believe and the emotion that's attached to that. And you know, we're making our young people feel like they're almost a failure before they even start. You know, I think the key here, and what I was trying to get at there, is the key is to become aware. You know, we can't change what we're not aware of. You know, so I could spend my life beating myself up by the fact that I never bought a house, but actually when I think about it, who told me I had to? And why am I allowing that to change and put pressure on me, you know? So it's about unpicking that and recognizing what your limiting beliefs are, because we all have them and we live by them, and we actually get caught in a cycle by our own beliefs. Isn't that crazy? And then we trap ourselves. It's crazy, really.
Yeah, so interesting. So there are people out there, and I notice it in my work all the time, that there's some people that just don't know how to get started and need some momentum, and we'll talk a bit about that today. There's a small minority of people, so I don't want to dwell on it because most people on this won't be suffering to this extent, but there are definitely people who are so stressed and so worried about money that it has, you know, all sorts of negative impacts on their body chemistry and their health. But the key thing from a financial perspective is it's very hard to think. And it's very hard to make decisions when you're in that state of mind. So just for a few minutes, I don't want to hog the whole session with this bit, but if someone is suffering that badly, what can they do to reduce their stress? You know, what practical ideas can we come up with?
What you're describing there is what we call burnout. It's basically an overuse of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which is your fight or flight response. And we need that, okay? We do need that. But using it every day, living at that stage, you get overwhelmed, you stop sleeping, you need rest, everything feels overwhelming to you, and you have to stop and seek help. It's really important. I think if a client comes to me suffering from stress, I look at them as phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3 clients. And what we do at Happy Days is we provide coaching. Now, depending on the level of stress, you would be using meditation or hypnotherapy. You need to stop, and your body, again, that word, you need to find balance. Yeah.
Is there another way? Because this meditation thing, I know it works for a lot of people, but I always found it a bit weird. Never quite gone on with it. What else can we do for people that sort of?
Yeah, then are you the type of person, Darren, that would go for a run or
sure. Yeah. I
think you have different types of people. So some clients, you know, you could say to a client, go for a run, and it's the last thing. They ain't going to get out of bed, never mind go for a run. That's where they're at. But I'm like you, I run for my mental well-being and also for my physical health. But so running, of course, then produces the happy hormone, and that's what you need to do. You need to get your body back into balance and reintroduce different hormones to get yourself back into it. I do think coaching is really, really important. I think somebody that's able to objectively listen to what's happening and then give you suggestions on how to move forward is really important. You shouldn't live like this on your own. There's so much support out there. There really is.
I think it's like those taboos out there, you know, mental health and financial worry, two things that people don't want to talk about, you know, especially men. I think there's a lot of male pride out there. I think we need to get to a point where, you know, this is just life, and we've got to get rid of the taboos, and we've got to be prepared to seek third-party support when we need it. We all need help from time to time, and be in a good place so that we can be there for others when we are in good shape and they need help.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. The thing is, you have two choices, right? You close down and you don't do anything. Your body will get, you know, you will get more and more unwell. But actually, problem shared, problem half. It's not saying for no reason. It really does make a difference. And if you haven't got somebody in your life that you can get support from, reach out to people like the Happy Days charity, or I'm happy to speak to people if you've got any questions, and we can direct you to the right place. But Brilliant. It's so important that you aren't embarrassed about this, because we live in a very, very stressful world right now. We do.
Okay, so thanks for that. So for the majority of people that aren't that severely stressed, I mean, I've had quite a lot of feedback over the series. I've talked about goals a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at the sort of 4 pillars of financial well-being, without the detail, it's living within a tolerable level of stress. It's not having any high interest debt. It's having solid economic foundations, so you know things are going to be all right. But my favourite one is to have goals, have future focused objectives and a plan to achieve them. And while I've talked about it a lot, some of the feedback I've had is, how do we go about that? How do we start that? So why is setting financial goals so important, and how can people go about setting them?
So basically, goals, in my opinion, are generally important. Basically, goals are your why. If you don't know why you're doing something, then you're kind of asleep, right? You're kind of wandering through, which I think a lot of people find, and then they look for their purpose, etc. Having a goal is discovering your why, and it's essential because it helps you make the right choices so that you can live a happier life in the long run. And our coaches deliver a program called Habits to Happiness, and we basically look at a process that helps the user to create smaller goals that will help them to achieve their overall purpose. And remembering that overall purpose has to fit your why, not somebody else's why, your why. And sometimes, okay, when we're climbing the stairs, we can't see the top of the stairs, but it doesn't mean we don't keep going, do we? What we do is we as long as we know why we're going there, we will eventually make it. But goals, as you say, they need preparation and they need consideration. And like, imagine you're going on a journey for the first time somewhere new, okay? You've not been there before, you know the destination, you've got to pack up the car. Yeah, you've got to think about what you need, how long you've gone for. You might get a sat nav to guide you. So basically what you're doing is you're getting the information, you're preparing yourself for a journey to something new, and that's good. But along the way, let's say there's new turns and the roads are blocked off and your sat nav breaks. Imagine how uncomfortable that would make you feel. That is what you're doing if you live your life without goals. You're wandering kind of, with unprepared, and you then need the tools and techniques to be able to deal with all the things that life throws at you. I'm
with you, and I totally agree. I mean, from my background, I understand goals are crucial, and the why is crucial. The why guides us. We gravitate towards our why. And I've said this many times on these sessions, that if somebody wants something enough, if it matters enough, if it's a big enough goal, if their why is strong enough, they'll go and find the solution themselves. What we can do through the workplace is actually provide some of those things there to make it easy. So I've got the motivation and the strategy combined. The other thing I really like about goals is that it affects the brain. So even without a strategy, you're more likely to achieve a goal if you've set one, even without a strategy, because you flip open the reticular activating system in your brain. So it's like if you buy a new car one day, you think it's quite unique. You go out on the road, you suddenly notice them everywhere. That's because before you had your car, you never noticed them. It wasn't in your peripheral vision. It wasn't on your radar. And so the reticular activating system is a thing that blocks out the senses you don't need to use. But with a goal, you open them up. You actually have your goal radar. And I find what you do is you get lucky. People say it's lucky. It's actually having goals, because you naturally notice the things, the people, the situations that help you achieve your goal. So having goals just for that purpose alone. You're
attracted to the things that you look to, okay? It's a fact. You're attracted to, you bring what you're looking for. It's so true. I think my top tips for having a bigger goal in mind is your why, like you say, but also not to forget the journey. I think sometimes we forget the journey to the goal. So like you said, the car, but we can't have everything we want immediately. And what I literally, part of Happy Days is be happy along the way. And what happens is, instead of focusing on the big main goal of the house or the car or the holiday, you've got to have the smaller goals so that you feel a sense of achievement and happiness along the way. And also remember that a lot of the things that make you happy are for free. Yeah, they don't cost you money. And so again, it's about understanding that and working out what those are for you.
I'll tell you, you're so right, and I'll tell you for why. The things that are free, what makes most people happy is spending time with people they love, right? And it's interesting. We run financial education programs in different organisations, and when we ask people, when we present the different topics in the correct meaning and the correct context of their life, the top topics that people want to learn about are always family related. Quite fascinating. Before they kind of get the meaning and context, they may be further down the list. suddenly jump up when it comes to making sure that their family's going to be all right. And so, where can people go to actually find a way, a strategy to put together a goal for themselves? Any pointers on that?
Well, I think, you know, like you said, if somebody wants something enough and they are sure that that's their why, it's about creating a realistic timeline, using your usual, you know, is it realistic? Is it measurable? How are you going to make sure you achieve that? Who do you need to help you to achieve that? If you struggle and you just need a session with somebody, I mean, getting a coach, even if it's just for 1 or 2 sessions to help you really break down how that's going to look and how you're going to get there, and look at, we do a technique called goal mapping, which is basically engaging the left side and the right hand side of your brain. So we look at your visual mood board of where you want to be, but also we give you practical steps to get there. And like you say, what you're doing there is you're telling your brain, oh, you're making it real. By drawing it out, you're making it real. And the difference it makes when you can actually see where you're heading, as opposed to thinking, oh, I'd like to do that one day, is phenomenal. So that, you know, there's a lot of, again, if you have any comments or questions about this, please do put something in the chat and we're happy to talk about it. But
brilliant.
That's what I would suggest, is trying to write it out, trying to physically get to grips with what it is and make sure you have a timeline. Absolutely.
So, Happy Days for Everyone Foundation, the word happy, you know, brilliant, love that, you know.
That's what everyone wants to be, right? What do you want to be in life? You want to be happy.
Well, happiness is the ultimate goal, isn't it? That is where we want to end up. You know, every single decision we make in life is to make us happy, is to make us feel good. Even if it's a decision to avoid feeling bad, because if you avoid feeling bad, you feel good. And the primary motivators in life are pain and pleasure. And over the years of trying to survive, we've finely tuned the avoidance of pain one, you know, but we don't need to use that so much anymore because we don't have, you know, dinosaurs running around trying to eat us, you know. So I think what people need to help them is to focus more on making good decisions to achieve the things they want, the positive things in their life. And ultimately that is to be happy, ultimately that's to feel good. So you talk a lot about it, and you've mentioned to me before habits of happiness. So could you tell us a little bit more about that from a financial perspective, please?
Yeah, so basically we all have habits. Breathing is a habit. It's an essential habit. It keeps us alive. Negative thinking, if anyone's suffered this, it's a habit. Basically, anything that we repeat over time becomes a habit. And we often find ourselves falling into, as you see, the more negative habits. So with the Habits to Happiness program, we want to educate people about the science behind why we do what we do. And we use modern day neuroscience and behavioral science because we know the power of the education. So what makes a habit? Right, so we all start with new behaviors. So I want to imagine that my hand right now is your brain, okay? And in the brain, you have the prefrontal cortex, and inside you have the inside, which is too many words to be talking about. Basically, the prefrontal cortex is where you have your critical thinking. So when we start a new behavior, for example, let's go with overspending because we're talking about financial well-being. So overspending is a habit, okay? What happens is you're very consciously in your prefrontal cortex making a decision to do that, but over time, the overspending becomes a habit and you forget the reason why you did it. And so what we do is we shake up that, we get your habit from the middle of your brain back into the critical thinking of your brain, and this is what we call the awakening. And how we do that is we explain a habit cycle. So it's very simple. The habit cycle is that we have a cue to something. So the cue is the need, the want of something. And then we have the behavior, what we do to meet that cue. And then the reward that we get. So
I'm going to share. You sent me a slide on this. I'm just going to share it with people.
Yeah, it's very simple, but it's so basically what happens is so for overspending, the cue. I've done this. I'm guilty of this. I've worked really hard. I need to treat myself. It's going to make me feel good if I can buy that thing that I want. And so the behavior is I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy that thing, and I get online and I'm ordering all these things. And the reward is that when it arrives, I think, wow, I feel really good about this. But of course, we all know that the more we do this and over time, the less the reward is, yeah? The same with smoking a cigarette. The first cigarette, it's never the same reward. So what we're saying is, if you understand the cue. The cue is the key. If you understand the cue as to why, what it is you're seeking. So when I worked with a lady around overspending, we actually found that the cue for her spending was an emotional trigger because she felt lonely. And so actually what we did was we replaced the behaviour with the reward. She was into running, so she joined a running club. And so when she ever had that cue and that desire, instead of overspending, she went to the running club and then had social. And over time, she forgot about that old habit, and the new habit became the running. So that's kind of, you know, a good example of what we're trying to do. And it's really simple, and I think it's really easy for a lot of people to do, if that helps.
That does help. Thanks very much. So, and these sessions are not promotional, and because you are setting up as a charity, and your primary objective is helping people. I get that, rather than profit, which is fantastic. So good for you. I just want to make sure people know how to if they need some third-party help, to reach out, go to a website, that sort of thing. So let's have a look. Here we go. Let's just want to put that up there. So I'm happy to promote it on this occasion, because it's a good thing. It's for people to reach out and get some help. So those are the contacts there. So look, I know you're going to stay around for a minute. We are coming to the end of the half an hour. Next week, everybody, what's going to happen is, have I stopped sharing? Yeah. Next week, we are looking at another element of financial well-being. One of the key aspects of financial well-being is that you know in the back of your mind that whatever happens, you and your family are going to be all right financially. Okay. The two aspects of that is making sure you've got your assets protected, but the other element of that is making sure that if you were sick or disabled or died, that everyone's going to be all right. There's going to be enough money around. Okay. Nothing worse than looking down from heaven at the family struggling. You know, we don't want any of that. So what we're doing next week, I'm not here, I'm away on holiday. So I've got one of my colleagues called Matthew Mitten. He's going to host the show for me. And we've got a great guest speaker who's an advisor, and he's an expert in the protection arena. So he's going to share with you everything he knows about all the different types of protection, but also a formula to give you a formula to work out exactly how much you need for your family to suit your needs and objectives. Okay, so you're going to find out the formula, you're going to find out the different types of cover, and then we can go and get it. You can get it online and stuff like that, but it just get your kickstart. One of those things that we always have in the back of our mind that we don't get round to doing. So I think we're coming around to the end there. So the other thing I have to do is screen share. Again, I have to, before I get told off by my team, I need to put if I can find it, the final slide up, because we're regulated. Can you see that? Is that sharing? Probably not. Okay, I might be messing this one up. I have to share the final page. Share screen. There we go. Right, where is it?
The joys of technology.
Oh, I can't find it. We'll have to add it on at the end when we edit it for the recording. So I can't find it. It's here, but I'm stuck with the technology. So we'll have to forget it for the time being. Okay, so so next week, Matthew Mitten with a protection expert. So dial in for that. It's going to be the end of it, the 8 weeks next week. But what we'd like to do, we want you to come back. You know, we do ask you to give us feedback. When you come out of the session, you get taken straight to the feedback form. Complete that, takes a minute. Please give us a feedback. Tell us what's working for you, what's not working. But also, we really want to know how to fine tune it going forward. We might keep it going. Don't know. 8 weeks was the original plan. We're going to review that. We've had a lot of people on here and a lot of positive stuff. So absolutely give us a feedback. Tell us what you think. We want to make it good. I'd love to keep it going, but we're going to take a bit of a break after next week for a few weeks, and then we'll decide, and we'll keep you posted. So so those of you that have to go off to other meetings, feel free to go off. I have, for everybody else who wants to ask some questions, send those questions in. And I have a question here to begin with for you again. And I also have Michelle. Michelle, would you like to reveal yourself to help us with the questions?
Hi, how are you doing?
Blimey.
I'm really sorry. I'm sorry about the virtual background. As with most people in COVID world, I'm sort of managing childcare and doing these webinars. So this sort of saves you from the chaos that's actually going on behind me.
Okay. Well, I hope you're enjoying yourself up in space. Okay.
Yes. It kind of feels like we're in weird space anyway at the moment, doesn't it? So
yeah. Thanks ever so much. So So, first question up here, really powerful question, actually. I don't know who's put this
Yeah.
up. Right,
Yeah.
so here's the question. How can I start to unpick the limiting beliefs that are trapping me from moving forward or engaging in my goals? Wow, what a great question.
It's a great question. And I think the real thing is, if you start by get a piece of paper down and write down all of your beliefs, so things that are really integral to you, you can do them in categories. So if you look at your beliefs about your finances, your beliefs about your family, about your behavior, about what's your relationships, about your health, what's important to you. And as you start doing those, then sit down and look, which ones of these do we think are helping us grow? Which ones do we think are helping us develop? And then where do you think ones may not be? It's a really simple little exercise, but it will start giving you the awareness piece that Gain is talking about, that will start, this inquiry into what's holding you back. You might also have noticed that there's times in your life when you are consistently challenged. What are the patterns that come up time and time again? So if this limiting belief is believing you're not good enough, where have you got examples of this? And you'll see that these patterns of behavior that come out. We can, again, as Gain has mentioned, it's also good to get sometimes other people's views on this and other people's support. So maybe that's a coach, maybe that's a friend, because sometimes we don't really, there might be things that we haven't really discovered yet, or we're sort of blind to. So that's a good way of getting extra support.
I think as well, a really good exercise, a really simple exercise, is get a black pen and a red pen and write down the things that you have control of and the things that you don't have control of, because that's a really good way of prioritizing. Because often we have these limiting beliefs that are holding us back, that actually we have no control of them, and we need to kind of just accept that. Do you know, like sometimes it's your boss that's doing something or whatever. It's like you can't control what your boss is doing, but let's look at what you can control, and then you then create a way forward, focusing on the things that you can control. And actually, what's really good is over time, the things that you can't control begin to change because of that.
Brilliant. So you mentioned something earlier on about somebody who had a queue, and I've come across this queue situation where people get a queue and then they go and take a wrong behaviour. And I think that what's happened is the world has kind of used our psychology against us.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. But if you look at social media advertising, I'm very conscious of. You can actually get a bit of kit. I've got it, £11 a month, to stop anyone out there knowing what I'm doing on the internet, so they stop selling me stuff, right? Because I'm a shopaholic. But what they do is they, especially on like some of the main social media platforms, they know what you're looking at. They put content on the social media platform. They can see that you're looking at it. You might watch a video for 10 seconds. If you watch it for 10 seconds, you go into the 10-second audience. If you watch it for 30 seconds, you go into the 30-second audience. If you watch it for a minute, you go into the minute audience. And then they sell that audience to people to advertise the same product.
Yeah.
You know who you are. So you notice if you stop your scroll and you look at something, then later on you start, even literally within seconds, you're starting to see adverts on for that thing. It's a horrible feeling of them controlling us. But what it does, and I've noticed it because I've got loads of unnecessary material things in my house because of it, is that they keep on bombarding you until you want it it actually becomes a need. You want it so badly. And they create an impulse. And it's being aware of that impulse. Be aware of the impulse so you don't make that bad decision, because then what they do, they make it really easy to buy, don't they? Buy it now, one click, bang, it arrived tomorrow. So they catch us out there. So one little trick, if you I think really is going to certainly help me massively, and I know it helps a lot because I've spoken about it for months now, is that when you feel that urge, when you feel that impulse to buy something you've been promoted online, don't buy it now. Add it to cart. Yeah. Give it 24 hours. See if you still want it in the morning. Technique. So, got another good question here. Oh no, this is just statements of thanks. Actually, really enjoyed the session. I thought that was a question. Okay, here's a good question. So, what is the first step you should take to reach out and find out why you've gone from being focused on a positive person to now having anxiety attacks and sleepless nights? Oh, poor thing. Okay, what a great question.
Yeah. And I think that depends on, the world we're in at the moment is a very different place than it has been. So if this is something that's happened very recently, it's happening everywhere around us. We've gone from a world where, I think if we looked in January to where we are now, none of us would have foreseen this. and everything has changed, and we're having to be more prepared in our lives ever than we've been before in living in times of uncertainty. So we're looking at how to build resourcefulness and resilience and adaptability. So if you if they would like to message one of us directly, we can then sort of help signpost them in a way that would support them, because it's sometimes quite personal what people need and what support they need. But for us, I think, you know, mental health is as important as physical health. So it's great that they're making the first step to approach right now. But both of us will put our email addresses on there, and if they want to contact us directly, privately, we can, you know, signpost them to the right direction.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm typing there, like, I don't know what I've done there, but hopefully you can. Somebody asked for my details, so I was trying to type them in really badly. So sorry about that.
Yeah. So there's so that person there, that person speaking in the third party. But I think, you know, it's obviously it's amazing how it's affecting people. Having anxiety attacks and sleepless nights from positive. So if you could help them, if you could reach out to that, that person, their name's anonymous on there. But if you could, can you type an answer in there to contact detail or a website?
Yes, yeah, I will. I'll do that now.
Yeah,
I think
sorry, I did try.
Let's help that individual. And
I think as well, anxiety often comes from that not knowing your why and your purpose. It comes, you know, like that lack of security, that fear. And like Michelle said, society is changing, of course, at the moment, and fear is everywhere. We're being bombarded into, you know, fear, you know. And I think that when you start to question your existence and your why and your what am I doing and what, it can cause to the core of you such a shake-up that you can become really anxious and like a different person. And I think, number one, you can't ignore the anxiety physically. It is a message from your body that things are not okay right now. And I think sharing and talking about it really will make a big difference. So please do contact us.
Yes, you must, obviously you deal with people who have got mental health problems all the time. And it must be quite satisfying for you to help people. And, you know, absolutely. This is one of the wonderful things for me to be involved with you now, is to, you know, I want to really learn that mental health side of things. I've kind of been on the psychology trail for years, but to really understand that in real life, absolutely fantastic. So I've got another question here for you. How can we find out more about Happy Days? Well, we've typed in it. What's the website called?
Happyforeveryone.com. Sorry, we did it talking over each other.
Foreveryone.com.
And that's currently being updated with our charity status coming through. So we'll be updating that over the next couple of weeks as well. So there'll be more content and tools and resources for people to use practically to help themselves.
Okay. And tell me about this, the wheel.
The balance wheel. So we look at life in terms of happiness. Really comes from balance. We know that when we're at our happiness, things are just an even keel. Everything seems like it's, you know, flowing. We're not spending too much time at work. Our finances are in order. We're seeing our friends or our family. Our health is good. So we look at life in terms of a life balance wheel. And we can send a link actually to, or if you go onto the Happy Days for Everyone website, you can do a life balance wheel. And it really just gives you a little assessment. In the moment, it's quick and dirty, but it's a good way of seeing where you're focusing your time at the moment. And where maybe you may need to look at sort of supporting yourself. So if you're working too hard at the moment, is that impacting your social life? Is it impacting your health? So it really gives you a little snapshot of where you are in your life, and we can share that with you so people can try it out for themselves.
Okay, thanks very much. So I think there's what I've learned about all this is there's 6 basic human needs, which I won't go into all the detail, but feeling significant, you know, is a big part of that. And if you've got mental health problems and financial problems, that's really hard to achieve that one. Love and connection, you know, we all know it's very hard to love and connect with people when we're feeling stressed and anxious. Having certainty, you know, that is a big part of the basic human needs. And if we haven't got that because we're worried about things, no good. We need uncertainty and variety, not the stress that comes with it, but the fun and engaging side of it. The other thing we need in life is contribution. And if we're in a good state, we've got our financial health good, we've got our mental health good, we can be there for other people, you know. So contribution is a powerful thing. But then the thing we talk a lot about today is the other basic human need is growth. And if we've got those goals and we've got setting those financial goals and we start to work towards achieving them, then certainly we're starting to tick those boxes. But I think the basic human needs, you know, from a financial and an emotional perspective, we can address all of those bits and pieces. So I'm getting hassled here by my team because of time, and they really want me to. Okay, so I've got the, yeah, so what I'm going to do then, I'm going to have to try and get the screen up so we keep ourselves compliant. So I'm going to try and, okay, bear with me then, so I think I found it, right. Can you see that, everybody?
Oh, yes.
Yes? Okay, to save my team having to edit this thing, I'm going to then, so you've got your contact details, which is great.
Lovely, thank you.
There we go. And then next Friday, as I mentioned, financial protection. And then that's the caveats we've got to put up. That'll save the team spending hours and hours trying to edit at the end. So, oh, look, they're all saying thank you very much for that. Not a problem. Okay, I think I might have another question. Have a quick look. Okay, this is final question. Then I can answer this one. My wife and I both managed to miss the notification for these sessions, and this was my first session, which I enjoyed, and I'm really enjoying it. I feel like I'm joining 3/4 of the way through. Some of the previous sessions sound like they were particularly useful. So, where can I find the previous webinar recordings? So I'll tell you where they are. They're on YouTube. Okay, so there's a YouTube channel called Foster De Novo. That's DENOVO, Foster De Novo. If you go onto that YouTube channel, they're all on there. This one will probably be on there by Monday or Tuesday, but all the previous weeks are all there. So I'm going to stop that share now. I'm going to go back to you guys. Look, thanks ever so much for jumping on today. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure having you. Keep up all the good work you're doing. You know, it's really important. I know. I mean, I lost a friend a couple of years ago to a mental health problem. He took his own life. Really boosted my endeavour, especially when I found out that 2 days before he took his own life, he had run out of money. You know, and that really, really boosted me. And, you know, whilst in my work, and I'm sure you must feel exactly the same, you know, whilst we are helping hundreds and thousands of people feel better, feel well, feel happy, you know, probably along the way, we're saving a few lives as well. And that really is a fantastic place to be. So again, Michelle, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks ever so much. And good luck with all the good work. And I'll see you at the next board meeting.
Lovely. Look forward to it.